Hi, and welcome to Movie Streamcast, a weekly podcast where I review one movie that's currently streaming on Netflix Watch Instantly. This is episode 10, double digits, and I'll be reviewing The Messenger from 2009. And since there are so many films with a similar title, just to be clear, The Messenger from 2009 stars Woody Harrelson and Ben Foster. I'm your host, Jason Piles, podcasting from Salt Lake City, and the purpose of this podcast is to help you order your Netflix queue so you can be sure to spend your time only watching good movies. So in about 10 minutes or less, I'll review The Messenger, and I'll advise you to stream it, queue it, or avoid it. So The Messenger is about two soldiers who have one of the toughest jobs in the world. They're assigned to the casualty notification team, which means they're the guys that show up at a family's home and tell them that their loved one has died in battle. Now, in the movie, this assignment is described as sacred, and from what I saw in the film, I totally agree with that. So you've got a veteran bad news breaker, played by Woody Harrelson, and he's trying to show the ropes to this recently injured hero soldier, played by Ben Foster, who's been reassigned to this special detail. So to give you an idea of what genre this would be classified under, this is a drama 100%. And though dramas aren't typically my thing, I do love this film. The first thing I got to tell you about The Messenger is the performances are spectacular. I mean, the acting is really, honestly astounding. And it would have to be if you'd think about it, because almost every scene is swimming with some sort of high drama. I mean, you've got wives, mothers, and fathers receiving the worst news of their lives. And these actors have to react to this in a convincing way on camera. And those performances are incredible, like I said. But what enhances the power of the performances is while this is happening, while they're receiving the news, you watch the faces and the behavior of Woody Harrelson and Ben Foster's characters. And that just takes it to a whole new level, because the way they're reacting to it actually makes the grieving even more intense. So the scenes really blew me away. And when this movie came out in 2009, I remember hearing something about the scenarios in the film are typical of the various reactions that people have under this kind of dire circumstances. So anyway, it blows me away too that the actors were able to just portray such raw emotion. And it almost feels like you're watching a documentary sometimes. There are times in the movie, at least for me, that I wanted to look away because I felt like, I shouldn't be gawking at such a pitiful scene. So I know what you're thinking at this point. Yeah, that sounds like a fun movie. Why would I ever want to watch this? Well, first of all, regardless of your political beliefs about war, if you live in a country like ours, like the United States, where soldiers are dying on your behalf or on behalf of your country, then I think we need to be aware of the price tag by looking at the price tag. And I'm not a veteran. I've never served in the armed forces, and I've had loved ones who have served and fought in wars, but I haven't actually experienced the loss of anyone close to me through war. So having said all that, the cinema is a way for us to try to gain some kind of understanding of that price, even though we'll never know exactly what it's like unless we experience it. Yeah, so it's not the same. But I think it's easy for us civilians to kind of forget about those sacrifices. And meanwhile, there are families out there who have empty chairs now. So anyway, I just think this is a good way to remember. And this film is something that's a great reminder for me, so I don't take those kind of sacrifices for granted. Now, the second reason I think you should watch The Messenger is it's a great film that's well made. As I said, Woody Harrelson gives one of the greatest performances of his career, if not his greatest. I can tell you definitively this is my all-time favorite Woody Harrelson character. And yes, Hammer, even more than his Tallahassee character in Zombieland. And I love that guy too. But anyway, I should tell you, The Messenger isn't all sad. It's not a total downer. It's not all dark and dreary. There are some very humorous moments too, especially between the two lead characters who become great friends. And speaking of their friendship, the most moving moment in this movie has nothing to do with death, but it's actually a brief depiction of friendship. And it's very subtle. This is the kind of moment that most people will miss in a movie, but I want you to watch for it. That's why I'm pointing it out right now. I feel like this one little tiny moment in the cinema taught me something about loyalty. There's a scene where Ben Foster's character is attending a formal event that is kind of a difficult experience for him. So he's drunk, and his appearance and his behavior at the event are making everyone else feel uncomfortable, except for his best friend, the Woody Harrelson character. Now, in a lesser movie, the Woody Harrelson character would try to talk him off the ledge and make him behave, or try to prevent him from saying or doing something that he might regret. But no, Woody Harrelson totally has his back and is behind him in every word and every action, and you can see it on his face. It's actually incredible. And I would say this is the best depiction of friendship and loyalty that I've seen in the cinema that I can remember, and I'm serious about that. It's really incredible. So, as for a verdict, The Messenger is a must-see film, as far as I'm concerned, a definite must-see, because you haven't really seen a film quite like this before, and I think it's special. So, I mean, it's a 9 out of 10, and the only reason I took it down a little bit is because it has kind of a weird structure, and that's fine, but there's like a relationship that's shoehorned in there that doesn't really work for me, and I kind of wish that romantic relationship weren't part of the film. I was sad when they started going that direction, so I knocked it down a point for that. Otherwise, it would have been a masterpiece. But it's a 9 out of 10, and I'd say stream it and watch it next, in fact. So that just about wraps up this week's episode of Movie Streamcast. You can join me again next Thursday for another episode when I'll be reviewing a double header for you. I'm going to do old school here, Bad Boys and Bad Boys 2. I guess that's not too old school. Most people have seen these movies, I'm sure, but the reason I want to review them is because, well, number one, they're streaming, and I think that's cool. And number two, I have some bold claims to make about those movies, so don't miss it. You can follow Movie Streamcast on Twitter at Movie Streamcast, and you can also email us at moviestreamcast@gmail.com or leave a comment on our website at moviestreamcast.com. And if you haven't already, you can support our show by subscribing in iTunes. And I want to take the time to thank my good friend Jeff Hammer, who sponsors this show. We appreciate his work. And finally, I just encourage you to check out my other film podcast. It's called Movie Podcast Weekly, and that's a weekly show where my co-hosts and I review at least one new movie that's currently playing in theaters, and we release our episodes every single Monday at moviepodcastweekly.com. This week right now, we get an episode out where we reviewed Star Trek Into Darkness, so check it out. All right, that's it. I thank you for listening, and join me again next week for Movie Streamcast.